Over the last 24 hours or so, we've been hearing a lot of the phrase shelter in place as it relates to the outbreak. And many started asking, what does that look like? We may have a sense here. This is the first full day people in Hoboken have been asked to shelter in place. News 4's Pat Battle's been there all day to get a sense of what it really means and what it's been like. Pat?
Well, David, you might recall that Hoboken was the first city to limit the hours of bars and restaurants. They set that precedent, and a lot of others followed suit, including neighboring Jersey City and New York. But in terms of this protocol that they're calling self-isolation, well, their neighbors haven't been so quick to follow. In fact, the mayor here fending off some criticism about the lack of regional uniformity of self-isolation. But he says he's got to do what's best for his city.
Last night was the first calm night we had in about 4 or 5 nights, because people were coming here like this was the way to get away from the pandemic. Let's come to beautiful Hoboken and hang out.
We saw a lot of people here. Yeah, the bars still had lines outside of them. Yeah, people were like celebrating St. Patrick's Day, but I think that hopefully now, I think that people have sort of started to grapple with the gravity of the situation. So we're seeing that die down a lot, which is good.
These two teachers are working from home. They stepped out for a quick takeout lunch.
Support your local businesses.
And headed right back. In a vibrant square-mile city which draws millennials and young families, self-isolation can be suffocating.
I could do it for, I think the first week, and then after, I think going to the second week might get a little stir crazy because you're so used to mingling with people. That's the hardest part.
But Gregory and Allison are staying inside and following the city directive to go out only for food, supplies, or medical needs. It's okay to walk the dog or go for a jog or a run, but along the waterfront part, this sure doesn't look like social distancing.
So we're not looking to summons people or arrest people.
But the mayor warns of stricter rules if people don't comply, and with bars and restaurants closing early and limited to takeout, Anthony's pastrami house is cutting it the best they can.
People are coming in, they'll call in, place their order, come in and take it, and Grubhub and DoorDash and Seamless. So, it's been okay.
The deli sits on busy Washington Street, where parking is always at a premium. And though alternate sides have been suspended, meter rules are still being enforced. And that brought a dozen parking officers to City Hall to ask the mayor to consider them and their families, too.
If they are not in effect, then Washington Street becomes a parking lot, and it becomes impossible for a senior citizen to get groceries.
Well, the mayor did meet with some of those parking enforcement officers afterward, and they did come to an agreement. They're going to try to stagger their shifts so that they're not exposed like other non-essential workers here in the city of Hoboken. Now, the police chief says he's pretty sure that the state and perhaps the federal government will soon be following in terms of that self-isolation. He says it's probably not far away for any of us. Reporting live from Hoboken tonight, I'm Pat Battle, News 4 New York.